The set is loud. Too loud. Not the productive noise of a film production moving efficiently toward a goal. The wrong kind of loud. The kind that comes from one person and radiates outward until it fills every corner of the space and nobody knows where to look. The director's voice is rising. Clint Eastwood is standing 40 feet away. He hasn't moved yet, but his eyes have found the source of the noise, and everyone who knows him knows that when those eyes find something, a decision is already being made. Here is the story. Warner Brothers lot, Burbank, California. Mid-production on a major picture. The director is mid-career, mid-budget, mid-tantrum. He has been building to this for 3 days, the small irritabilities accumulating, the impatience sharpening, the particular entitlement of a man who has been told enough times that his vision matters, that he has begun to believe his mood matters equally. The target of the tantrum is a production assistant, 22 years old, first major studio job. She made a mistake, a small one, the kind that gets made on every production every day, the kind that costs 2 minutes and no money and is corrected and forgotten before lunch. She handed the director the wrong version of a page. 1 page. Wrong version. He has been talking about it for 4 minutes. If this kind of story is why you're here, subscribe now. Every day, a new one. The assistant is standing still. She is not crying. She is not arguing. She is doing the thing that people do when someone with power over them is using that power badly. She is enduring it with the particular stillness of someone who has calculated correctly that the only safe response is no response at all. Around her, 43 crew members are doing their own version of the same thing. Looking at equipment. Looking at the floor. Looking at anything except the director and the assistant and the 4 minutes of a grown man's anger being directed at a wrong page. Clint Eastwood has been on film sets since 1955. He has been directing them since 1971. He has made 37 films as a director and acted in over 60. He has worked with Sergio Leone and Don Siegel and every significant figure in the industry across 6 decades. He has seen everything a film set can produce in the way of human behavior, the best of it and the worst of it and everything between. He has very specific opinions about what a film set is for. A film set is for making a film. Every minute of every day on a production is a minute of someone's money and someone's time and someone's creative life being spent toward a single outcome. The frame, the take, the thing that will exist on screen and be seen by an audience and mean something, or not mean something, depending entirely on the quality of what happens in front of the camera and behind it. Everything that is not in service of that outcome is waste. Everything that consumes the set's time and attention and emotional energy for reasons unrelated to making the film is waste that Clint Eastwood has zero patience for. He has been watching for 4 minutes. He has been patient for 4 minutes. He has given the director the time that a professional gives another professional to resolve their own situation, to hear themselves, to stop. The director has not stopped. Eastwood moves, not quickly, not with the dramatic urgency of someone making a statement. He moves the way he moves in his films, with complete economy, no wasted motion, each step covering ground without announcing that ground is being covered. He crosses the 40 feet between his position and the director's position in the time it takes the director to draw breath for the next sentence. He puts his hand on the cut button of the monitor beside him. The director turns. He sees Eastwood's hand on the button. He sees Eastwood's face. He stops talking. The set is very quiet now. Eastwood looks at the director for a moment. Not with anger. Anger would be a performance, and Eastwood doesn't perform things he actually feels. He looks at him with the particular quality of attention that people who have worked with him describe as the most uncomfortable thing they have ever experienced, because it is attention without any of the social softening that attention usually comes with. No warmth. No hostility. Just complete and unqualified seeing. Then he says, quietly, in the voice he uses when the point doesn't require volume, "We're making a film here. We're not disciplining a child." 7 words. Delivered without theater, without the raised voice that the situation might seem to call for, without any of the apparatus of confrontation that the director has been deploying for 4 minutes. 7 words that land in the silence of a set where 43 people have been holding their breath and produce, in the receiving of them, something that 4 minutes of shouting never produced. Clarity. The director looks at Eastwood, then he looks at the assistant. Then he looks at the 43 people who are no longer looking at the floor. Then he looks back at Eastwood. He says, "I was just..." Eastwood says, "I know what you were doing." Another silence. Then Eastwood looks at the assistant. He says, "You all right?" She nods. Her face is very controlled. The control costs her something, but she maintains it. Eastwood looks back at the director. He says, "Ready when you are." He steps back to his position. The set reassembles itself. The crew moves back to their marks. The assistant takes her position. The director, after a moment that is longer than it needs to be and shorter than it could have been, calls for positions. Production continues. What has happened in the preceding 60 seconds will be discussed on that set for the remainder of the production and on other sets for years afterward. Passed from crew member to crew member, the way things get passed that people witnessed and need to account for. A story about 40 feet walked without hurrying. About a hand on a button. About 7 words that ended something that should not have started. But to understand why it matters, why it is more than just a senior actor intervening in a junior director's bad moment, you have to understand what Clint Eastwood believes about sets and the people on them. He has said it in various ways across 60 years of interviews, in the particular language of a man who says what he means and means what he says and doesn't revise it for the audience in front of him. He has said, "The crew is where the film actually lives." Not in the director's vision, and not in the actor's performance, and not in the studio executive's notes. In the people who show up at 5 in the morning and set the lights and move the equipment and make it possible for anything to happen at all. The grips, the gaffers, the assistants, the drivers, the people whose names appear at the end of the credits in text too small for anyone to read. He has said, "You treat them with respect because they deserve respect, full stop. Not because it's good for morale or because it makes the set run more smoothly, though it does both of those things. Because they are people doing a job, and people doing a job deserve to be treated with basic human dignity regardless of where their name appears in the credits." He has said, "The moment a set becomes about someone's ego rather than the film, you've lost the film." The ego doesn't go on screen. The film does. The film is the only thing that matters on a set, and everything that gets in the way of the film is something you eliminate. These are not performances of humility from a man who is being publicly gracious. They are statements of operational philosophy from a man who has run 60 sets across 50 years and who has developed, through direct experience, a comprehensive understanding of what produces good work and what destroys it. What destroys it, in Eastwood's direct experience, is unchecked ego. The director who treats the set as a stage for his own authority rather than a workspace for the film. The actor who makes the day about their needs rather than the scene's needs. The senior person who uses their position to diminish rather than support the people below them. He has zero tolerance for it. Not performative zero tolerance. Actual zero tolerance, the kind that expresses itself not in speeches but in actions. In 40 feet walked across a set. In a hand placed on a button. In 7 words delivered quietly to a director who needed to hear them. After the day's shooting wraps, the assistant finds Eastwood at his car in the lot. She thanks him. She is precise about it, the way people are precise when they are thanking someone for something specific and real. He listens. Then he says, "You did your job today. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise for a mistake on a page." She says, "Thank you, Mr. Eastwood." He says, "Clint." He gets in his car. She stands in the parking lot for a moment. Then she goes back inside. She works in the industry for the next 30 years. She never forgets that parking lot. She tells the story to young assistants who are starting out, to people who ask her what she has learned, to anyone who wants to understand what a film set looks like when it is working correctly and what it looks like when it isn't. She tells them about 40 feet and a button and 7 words. She tells them about the difference between power used to diminish and power used to correct. About what it looks like when someone with every reason to stay in their position and say nothing decides instead to cross the room. About the particular weight of intervention that arrives without anger, without theater, without any of the apparatus of confrontation, just presence and clarity, and the absolute certainty of someone who knows exactly what a film set is for. She tells them, he didn't do it to make a point. He did it because it was wrong and it needed to stop and he was in a position to stop it. Then she tells them, that's the difference between people who see something wrong and wait to see if someone else addresses it, and people who are already moving before they've consciously decided to move. Eastwood was already moving. There is one more thing about that parking lot conversation that needs to be said. When the assistant thanked him, she used a specific word. She said, "You didn't have to do that." Eastwood looked at her. He said, "Yes, I did." She asked, "Why?" He thought about it for a moment. Not the performed pause of someone constructing an answer for effect. A real pause. The kind that means the answer is being located rather than assembled. Then he said, "Because I've been on sets for 60 years and I've seen what happens when people don't say anything, when the wrong thing is happening and everybody calculates that it's not their problem, and they look at the floor and wait for it to stop on its own." He paused again. It doesn't stop on its own. It gets comfortable. It gets normalized. It becomes the way things are on that set, and then it becomes the way things are on the next set, and then it's just what sets are like, and nobody remembers that it wasn't always like this. He looked at her, he said, "It stops when somebody stops it. That's the only way it stops." She held that for a moment. He said, "You did your job. Go home." He got in his car. She carried that parking lot for 30 years. Every time she saw something on a set that needed stopping and felt the pull of the easier choice, look at the floor, wait for it to resolve, let someone else carry it. She thought about 40 feet and a hand on a button and a man who said, "Yes, I did," without hesitation. It stops when somebody stops it. She stopped a lot of things over 30 years. She got a reputation for it. Young crew members asked her about it. She told them about the parking lot. She told them about Eastwood. She told them he wasn't angry. That's the thing people get wrong about it when I tell the story. They imagine it was some dramatic confrontation. It wasn't. He just walked over and put his hand on the button and said 7 words and walked back. No anger, no drama, just the complete certainty of someone who knew what a set was for and had decided that what was happening on this one needed to stop. She paused. She said, "That's the thing about real authority. It doesn't need the volume. It just needs the conviction. About what it means to see something wrong and be already moving before you finish deciding. About the difference between authority that protects itself and authority that uses itself for something beyond protection. About 43 people looking at the floor and 1 man crossing the room. About 7 words that didn't require volume, because they had conviction behind them instead. That's the Clint Eastwood who crossed a set in Burbank on an afternoon when a director confused his mood with his mandate. The one who was already moving. That's the one worth knowing.